So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And it is the end, sadly, of Buckeye Game Fest 2023. We are here and have been here for what seems like a very long time.
And it has been a long time. 5.5 days.
Yes. I think it's the longest we've been to any convention.
I would agree, yes.
Especially this one.
Because WBC, we usually go...
We've pushed it to 4 and a bit
4.5 days.
That one also might make it to 5 this year. Yeah. But we're here courtesy of Blue Panther, who are the publishing company for Hollandspiel and Catastrophe Games, White Dog Games, the Historical Game Company, and many more. So very grateful for them. And also Marshall Enterprises, who make La Bataille. I wish there was a big La Bataille kind of presence here is what I would say, a couple of games there. So very grateful for all of them.
I heard a lot of math going on over there. There was a lot of math and mathy looks.
Yeah. La Bataille, if you didn't know, is a very detailed Napoleonics game. And you play like a single battle, and like a turn is a half an hour, an hour. And like you said, the mathematics was explained to us, and it is very intense. So
I'm not a math guy, but it does sound interesting.
Yeah,
if someone knows it, teach it to us.
And maybe the reasons behind it would also be interesting as well. Because you don't make a system like that for fun, right?
No.
You make it because it's trying to do
something.
Because
it replicates something or models something well.
So there's lots
or
to
you
explore.
just like math.
Yes. So there's lots to explore there in the future as well, which is very interesting. And seeing a lot of people playing it. There was at least 2 full games going on at any given moment, which was pretty cool to see. So just wanted to give kind of a rundown and a debrief of everything that we did here and kind of what was going on. So Buckeye Game Fest is held in downtown Columbus, Ohio.
Beautiful downtown Columbus, Ohio. It's a great little downtown.
Yes, yeah. There's lots
very safe. Everything's close.
Yeah, we're in walking distance of a lot of like good little restaurants and different things to do and see. So it's always fun to come here as well. So we got here on Tuesday and immediately set up Unconditional Surrender. That was one of the kind of big plans that we'd had. We wanted to come a little bit earlier so that we could play some of these big war games that take a little bit longer than time we normally have.
And table space.
Yes, that too. And so we talked through a couple options of things that we could go through, and it was...
Day of Days was a consideration, SCS.
The U.S. Civil War came up, and we settled on Unconditional Surrender. And so we set that up and started playing Tuesday, got through a few turns of that. And it was, I love that game. I've played it solo. It's the only way I've played it, and that was a few years ago. So it was really nice to kind of reread that and get back into it and remember that. And this was the first time that you've played it.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I think from my perspective, I was the Axis. And the political segment was very interesting, very hard, but I also understand after going through the whole thing, okay, I know why it's hard for the Axis, because when you get near the end of some of it, sometimes it's just got 3 or 4 Axis chits in it, and you're going to succeed every time. So, but yeah, I had a great experience. It was fun.
Yes.
Right? It was a fun war game. Low counter density, no stacking. Lots of things were abstracted. Very dependent upon weather.
Yes,
weather affected
huge factor.
Everything from whether you could do air sorties or
what kind of modifiers you could get.
Whether you could see transport units. So it was a great little system. I had a great time. We had fun. We started in September of 39. We only got through June of 41.
Yes, it is not a short game. And it only gets longer the more it goes on. You lose the diplomatic segment. That doesn't take that much time. That's quite short. But especially as you get into the East Front, you're activating a lot more counters than you were beforehand.
20 units, so it's 20 different units activating. Some of those units have multiple movement points. You can attack 3 or 4 times with tanks. Infantry, it's only like maybe twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, you might get 2 in decent weather because you have fewer.
You're going to activate a unit, 2 or 3 attacks later, you activate the next unit. So it goes a little slower when you have a lot of combats. Before that, prior to that, we only had maybe 1 or 2 combats around in North Africa.
Yeah, there's less to do in those very,
France.
very early years. Yeah, like Poland just collapses. Doesn't take very long.
Yeah,
France, a little bit tougher of a nut to crack.
France put up a lot more staunch defense than I expected.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
That's a maneuver. It's it's a really neat system. I enjoy that. We'll have a review of that coming at some point with the 2 of us.
I would play that again at any time when we have about 2.5 to 3 days.
Yeah. Or that's a game, if you can leave it set up and play a turn a day for a month, you're going to have a great time. Through it. But, so yeah, that was Tuesday night, and that was pretty much the whole of Wednesday as well. So we kind of got up, came back down here, and played. A couple of friends of ours, Bill and Russ, kind of jumped in to help doing some of the Italians and some of the Soviets. Well, the Soviets didn't have as much to do early in that time.
And didn't we play Land and Freedom on Wednesday?
Yeah, we took a break halfway through.
About an hour and a half.
And Steve Jones from Blue Panther Games had some free time.
Or Steve Blue, or Steve Panther.
So
kind of fun to
when you order from them, let them know that address him by Steve Panther. He loves it. Tell him we sent you. He came over and we played Land and Freedom with him. We played that a couple
times now. Yeah,
like a month ago. Wow, it feels like time goes by so quickly. I played that a month ago, so it was nice to play that again, knowing kind of what to expect and also what to avoid, so we didn't catastrophically lose.
And we actually I think we did very well containing the 4 fronts.
Yes.
Very well. In fact, we had positive in, I think, all 4 at the end.
Yes.
Nothing crazy, 1 or 2 each.
Yeah.
But we knew that was something you got to do. We used our tableau significantly better this time, or at least I did. I think you did a good job the first game. But when you're clearing off 4 or 5 per turn because you have 3 or 4 cards and a teamwork benefit.
If you can keep that morale bonus and the teamwork, and I think we also did a good job of using hero points to keep those on.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was also relatively much less movement on the tracks compared to our first game. That was kind of what we were doing.
And that's the thing. There's got to be a balance. You've got to defend the fronts, but you've also got to focus on your individual goals here. But if you do too much one way, you're not going to win the game. Over here singly, and then here you're going to get crushed if you don't do enough.
Yeah, it was really fun playing that a second time. It was fun playing it with Steve as well.
It's a great game.
It really is. And we defeated the game.
Yeah.
And then got crushed points-wise by Steve, who pulled all of his stuff from the bag of glory.
Which was really funny.
Yeah.
6-3, I think, was the final reckoning.
I didn't have a single one pulled. It was great. I didn't have that much in there, but I think
you had 4 in
the
there.
end and didn't get 1. It was awesome.
It was that random mechanic at the end. While very interesting, you just have no idea who's going to win.
Yeah, you can seed it as much as you want, but there is always an element of chance, and we've seen it a couple of times where it's like, very steep. So but it remains a game, right? 60 to 90 minutes, it helps it to be a game nonetheless.
Yeah. Game on the Spanish Civil War and Revolution. How cool is that?
So that was most of Wednesday was taken up doing that for a little bit, but a lot of Unconditional Surrender. And then on Thursday,
we moved more away from Unconditional Surrender.
What did we do Thursday morning?
So we played.
I don't remember.
We played Time of Crisis in the afternoon.
We played Fire in the Lake in the morning.
Fire in the Lake in the morning.
Yeah, so
with 2 guys.
Yeah, we set up
2 new players to coin.
Yes. At least, especially new to that one.
Yeah.
I think they were,
Maybe another one other.
We played Fire in the Lake. We played a shorter scenario. I think
4-player, yep.
And I played as the NBA.
I was the Arvin.
And we were able to teach that kind of outside of our coin events, we'll talk about later. Always love Fire in the Lake. Always willing to play it. So we bring it to basically every con. And we hadn't planned on bringing it. But then when I got to your house, you're like, I'm going to bring it.
Yeah.
And so that came with us, and we played it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I had a good time with it.
I never don't want to give that one a go. Like, if you ask, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Really. I love that game. It's my favorite of the coins.
And one of the new guys won as the VC. Now, we had a shortened game, but he was doing pretty well.
Yeah, they were able to see that and experience that. And because I think Fire in the Lake is one of those ones where people kind of see it, and it's huge, and people try to learn it maybe on their own using some of the cards and the solo stuff. It's even doing that, it's a lot to process.
It is.
And so sitting down with people and talking it through is always much easier learning process. So I love being able to do that for people, but also I love playing it too. So
well, isn't that the concept of multiplayer anything, right? You can, while you're all against each other, you can somewhat collaborate and discuss and strategize even. And
especially in those early games when it's not trying to win.
Well, and if you don't understand something, someone else can help you understand it. And that's, I think that's the beauty of playing with other people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we played that in the morning from like 9 to noon and only got through, I think, like 3.5 decks or something like that. But then we played Time of Crisis with Jordan, our friend.
So we played a 3-player Time of Crisis with the Iron and Rust expansion.
Yes.
So I had some of the additional cards and stuff.
Speculums.
Yeah.
Love those things.
We haven't played that in a long time.
At least 4 years.
And I think we've played it
3 years.
I had played it twice before. I think I played the base game and we played the expansion.
And I had played it one additional time with Tim and Matt.
So I was quite rusty on like what that was like and and I couldn't. But this time, I felt like at the end of the game, I understood much better what a game looks like and what the things I should be doing and focusing on.
The really great part about that game, I think, is the continual struggle to keep control of your provinces.
Yes.
Because you have the place a new governor, kind of kick the governor out and take it over. And if you're in that 2 to 3 range on that little track, that's very doable. It's very hard to get much higher than that because
it's so expensive.
You got a lot to do and you only got 5 cards in your hand. So I feel like I'll take that from you and 2 turns later, you take it back from me. And so there's a lot of that, but military really is important.
Extremely important.
Very important because you got to fight off the barbarian invasions. And frankly, you also have to fight off other people, but protect against the political stuff with an army in the city center. That just makes the number harder to do. So the governor or the emperor, man, you got to have an army with a couple of tokens or a couple of legions.
Or toss out those case store cards that add to the votes needed.
It's just, there's a lot in that game. The deck building element works extremely well. And I just love that you can build some things here and you can fight the barbarians and you can strengthen your gut. There's just a lot to do. And the deck building really works well with it. And it's fun.
I think the first couple times we played that game, I'm like, I think I enjoyed it, but I would leave those games befuddled because I didn't understand. I was missing it. I was missing what was happening. And this time it finally all clicked in my brain. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I can see it,
how it works together,
and it went up in my estimation significantly. Of like, it was so good.
Was that because
so vicious?
Was that because you won though?
No, because I frankly won by accident. I didn't know I was going to get so many points at the end. Like I thought I was pretty much done with, and I was kind of just trying to shoot them in. But watching someone be a pretender and set that up really well, and that was a huge threat, but that also was very risky for them too. And just, I felt like it was a bit more of a swirling mess of things, which I'm like, oh, it's always going to be there.
And that was the 3-player element, because we are right on. I'm a little worried at 4-player, like we talked about. Down in the bottom, Egyptus and basically Hispania, I think.
Yeah, but if you're in Egyptus, you are immediately fighting over Syria, because Syria was just kind of like, we were just popping in there a little bit.
But up in the middle, it's like we were all on top of it. All I'm saying is I think the sweet spot may be the 3-player game.
Yeah, I'll be interested. But I also, the deck building made more sense to me as well.
Yeah, and I think we actually did it completely 100% correctly this time.
Yeah.
We've not done it correctly in the past.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted with how you buy and what you buy and stuff. But we got it.
Yeah, the value of the cards, 1, 2, 3, or 4, depended on how much...
The number of provinces you control.
Your spending power comes from your
control within those.
Control points within each of those areas. So it's a little bit.
But yeah,
there's some math involved.
I feel much better about that going forwards as well.
And I still stand by it. It's a great game.
And I love it. And it was also cutthroat. It's very take that, but also like it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that for 6 hours.
And the really great part is the deck building, the little cards, the different events, the different things that they do. They're just fun.
And you get to do it all. I really love that about it, where like you spend all your points and the events go off.
Yeah.
You feel really powerful doing a lot of
yeah.
stuff. It's not, it's not a restrictive CDG.
And that's why it's important to buy those cards,
Yes.
right?
Love-
and get rid of some crappy cards. So.
Yes.
Great game.
That was awesome. I had a really good time with that.
And that plays in about 2 hours with 3 players.
Yeah.
So it's a
And we were still nosing the rule book for the first round or two, so maybe
Yeah.
we'll go even quicker than that later on. That was awesome. I had such a good time with that.
oh yeah, that was a blast.
That was Thursday afternoon. Did we do anything else Thursday afternoon after that? Or did we just go?
I think we just messed around. We might have played a turn of Unconditional
That's
Surrender.
right. That's right. We kind of piddle around with
Then
that.
we did Nations and Cannons,
Yeah.
role playing.
Thursday night was Nations and Cannons. Nations and Cannons, if you do not know, is a American Revolutionary War historical mod for D&D 5th edition.
Yeah.
So we from Flag Bearer Games, you should go check them out. Currently they have a Kickstarter, it's probably ended by the time this goes up, for some additional content. You can get the call book and a bunch of other goodies from them.
Some new maps, I think, right?
I think it's all the same maps, but they're putting them into the book with the Gazetteers, which is pretty cool. But we found them at Gen Con last year.
Bought everything they had.
And so did a lot of people that we know. Because that's a pretty niche game and a niche audience.
American Revolutionary role playing. How many
Yes.
times can you say that?
Not a lot.
Never.
And I think also, but the crossover between wargamers and role players that's a
Yeah.
pretty large Venn diagram. I think
Yeah,
there's a
I
lot
agree.
of people that do. So we booked all that stuff up, and I spent the last kind of few months putting together a one shot, and we played that.
You did an excellent job, by the way.
Thank you. I
thought
appreciate that.
It was both engaging, there was a lot of fun, thought it was well structured, but you were flexible enough that when we did something stupid, and let me say, we did a lot of not stupid things,
No.
very unorthodox things.
Yes, but
when you're talking,
that's the beauty of D&D.
it is. But when you're talking about a wagon full of flaming manure and stable cleanouts being pushed into an alley to block a bunch of redcoats,
What's more D&D than that?
that's amazing. And
Right.
then there's a bear trap behind them that we set up. There were just some real great, very cinematic moments.
And that's what it's about.
Where you would roll, and I think I rolled a nat 20 when I threw my grenade into
Yes.
the guest house at the British compound where we were trying to free the prisoner.
Yes.
I mean that doesn't happen very often, right?
No.
You roll a nat 20 and the entire building.
It was great.
It was a conflagration.
We respect the Nat 20s. I had a blast by that. I would love to do kind of a separate video about Nations and Cannons.
Yeah, we need to.
Because it was so fun, and with the response that we got, like how well it was, I think everyone had a good time. I will probably make that a staple for this, and we'll do it.
Well, maybe even
a
add
session
a
every
play.
year.
4 players is always a good, real comfortable level.
Yeah.
Maybe a 5th or a 6th player would be fun.
I had a lot of requests from people like, hey, can I join? I'm like, I wanted to keep it as an invitational and small, just our first
Sure.
time, and if it fell flat, I don't want to waste people's time.
Well, it was also great because it was David Thompson, Russ Wetley, and Bill Simone and me were the players, and you were the DM, and we had a good time. Everybody played their character very well, and it's cool in that system. And we'll talk about it in the video, but your classes mimic those classic D&D. We had a barbarian. He wasn't called a barbarian. I don't remember what
He was called a barbarian. He was a barbarian. Oh, good gracious, berserker.
Okay, and he was from Portugal.
Yeah, he was a
Right.
Portuguese guy, and he had a huge claymore,
Yeah, it was
swinging
just-
it around.
Russ was a gunslinger.
He was
from
a,
Holland.
He was a Dutch gunslinger. Did not speak very good English.
It was funny, and he did a good job of not. Bill was an Iroquois Indian.
Yes.
Blankety Blank Blank was his name. I can't remember,
His
but we
name
called
was
him
Sawmill.
Sawmill.
Yep, that was
but
his English name.
actual name was kind of like Chingachgook from Last of the Mohicans,
Yes.
but not that. He did a great job. He was a ranger.
I believe he was a ranger, yes.
And then I was called a firebrand.
That's one of the new classes that comes in the book.
Okay.
It's a bard-esque, but they
Yeah.
don't do music.
Well, I didn't have spells. I had what were called gambits. And it was they were like spells.
Yeah,
So it was
they
cool.
function as spells, but it's really cool. They like dumb them down so they're like it's a mundane thing
Yes.
that you're doing extraordinarily.
Yeah, like a charm person was a real great speech to charm someone into doing what I wanted.
Or you could, you're setting up a trap. It's a physical trap instead of like an alarm spell.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's fun that they were able to
Very
figure out
cool.
ways to do that kind of thing.
My favorite gambit that I did was the Bane, which is similar to the Bane in D&D. I cast it on the Wendigo, and yes, I did say Wendigo. That was called in by Lord General, Major General
Lord Arthur Cathcart.
I mean, that's not a pretentious name, but he was a cultist, and he basically killed himself to bring in and call in a Wendigo, which was a blast. But I cast Bane on him, and every time he rolled, he had to roll a D4 and reduce that from his attack roll.
And it made a
cool.
massive difference.
It was very cool.
He missed a number of attacks and failed a number of saves because of it.
Yeah.
It was cool
was
seeing things be so effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots to like there. We did a 3.5-hour session, had a blast. Actually, it was almost 4 hours.
We finished at 11:30.
And
We started at 7, but it's...
I think our 2 plans that we put together were absolutely perfect. They worked perfectly. Everything worked well, and it was a blast. Great role playing, great time. Had a blast.
Yes.
So that was Thursday.
That was
night.
Thursday. Okay. Friday morning, we had our first coin and teach event session.
Yep.
That was 9 till noon. And that was, so we did this last year. It was very successful last year as well. And both sessions sold out this year, which was nice. So Friday morning we had, you had a game of Cuba Libre set up. I had a game of Andy and Abyss set up.
And we had 8 players, so we didn't play.
We were just GMing those, teaching.
We helped them.
So that was, again, I've mentioned it kind of with Fire in the Lake, but I really enjoyed teaching those games, partly because they're actually not too difficult to teach, especially if you've got someone kind of walking you through it, and then just seeing it kind of, some things fall into place with newer players. Like I was playing Andy and Abyss, and one of our players was also asking me questions about Fire in the Lake. He was asking me questions about other games that he's tried at home, was like, hey, how does this bit work? And I'm like, oh, well, it does this and this. And he's like, oh, I drove 8 hours to get that answer because he couldn't find it online. That was the joke that him and his girlfriend were making. It was funny, but yeah, Andy and Abyss is great.
Was that Ken?
Yes.
Okay.
But like, we've not played Andy and Abyss as much as some of the other ones.
I think Andy and Abyss and Cuba Libre, ironically, are 2 of the ones we have not played as much. We've played Liberty or Death, Fire in the Lake. I mean, those 2 have really been our bread and butter.
Those are the ones we've played the most.
Everything else multiple times, but
I at this point, because I played Andy and Abyss and Basil a couple times, Cuba Libre a couple times, and between these events, some of them we've had to sit in and play as well.
Yeah.
Last year and this year. I think I've got a number of those under my belt. Feel a bit much more comfortable with those, but being able to teach those and give people an opportunity who would normally be trying to learn them solo at home, it's more difficult. It really is, because you might be able to learn the rules, but seeing the strategies and the interactions play out with 4 players is wildly different.
Yeah. And I would say this with the newer players, because at my table I had 4 players, 2 of which had never played coin, 2 of which had at least played one other volume. And I think in Cuba Libre, there's so much opportunity for negotiation.
Yes.
Particularly between the syndicate and everyone else, or even the 2 insurgent factions can somewhat work together, but you end up screwing everybody in the end, basically. But that concept of I'm going to give you a cash if you don't attack me this round, or if you help me get control here so I can put some more guerrillas. And I didn't see that as much in the first round or 2, but going into 3 and 4, the syndicate guy started to get it and was like, okay, I'm going to give you this token. Can you do something for me? And that was cool. It was great to see players get comfortable with the mechanics and then move to more I'm going to actually get what I want to get, or try to get what I want to get.
With those 2, I really try to emphasize to like the syndicate or the cartels player, hey, your little shipment tokens, your little cash tokens, those are so valuable. Either to you as extra resources or free bases, or as bargaining chips.
A lem up or extra resources. If they hold it until the propaganda round, they get six resources.
Or they can dump a free base, which for some of those factions, bases is a victory condition.
Yeah.
And I really try hard to emphasize, like, hey, do not let these, because I've sat in games where like they don't touch them, and you're like, you should be using these whenever you have those. And I saw them used for everything. Someone built a base with one, someone used them for resources, someone cashed them in for the limb up in our Andean Abyss.
Someone paid me to not take the event. That was really cool.
Yeah, using them as table bribery is fun.
Ironically, 2 cards later, a worse event came up. I didn't take it because I had other things I wanted to do, but yeah, great opportunity to teach new players, great opportunity to have some good times. We had some prizes donated by GMT.
Yes.
And C3I magazine.
Yeah, so we're able to give away some coin games, give away some of those. That was really enjoyable to do that too.
And we did another session on Saturday from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
Where we taught, again, the same games, had a great experience. We had people not show up, which was a little deflating.
Yes.
I was surprised by that, but we had people that stepped in. Charlie stepped in.
Yeah, and then we had to sit in on those.
Right.
So we had 2 other 4-player games, and that was nice. A couple of repeat customers from last year as well. That was fun to see.
David came back, and I'm afraid we offended David because we invited him to a game on Saturday night, and he showed up a little later than expected, and we had already started. So I'm sorry, David.
What are we Friday afternoon?
I don't even remember now.
I have to think about this.
I feel like I've done a pretty good job of remembering what we did.
We did coin.
Well, we played Quartermaster General.
Yes.
Yes, we did that Friday evening. Quartermaster General. You then set up your miniatures.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
And then I played Undaunted with Russ.
Friday afternoon was Sword of Rome.
There you go. Forgot about that.
Sword of Rome, designed by the same guy that did Time of Crisis.
Ray Farrell.
Equally as cutthroat, if not more.
Very mean-spirited cards, frankly. The type of, you think you have a leader there? Catapult him into the sea. You think you can attack? Nope, you can't activate those units now. There's a lot of that.
Yes.
And that's cool because everybody needs to expect that's going to happen. But it's a very unique, I think, very interesting game. We played 5-player.
Yes.
I've heard everybody say 4 players better.
Yeah. Literally everyone we spoke to was like, 4 players
Do
better.
it 4-player. But it's an
I played the Carthaginians, which are the 5-player expansion faction, and I'm like, I'm inclined to agree because half the stuff I was doing was just against the NPC rebels to give me something to do.
Right. Or the Greeks.
Well, fighting the Greeks is fine because that invests in the game, but then I'm just doing a bunch of off-map stuff.
Yeah.
Which was less
interesting
and less engaging from this.
Sure.
So I understand why people would say that, but that was a very interesting game to learn, and I definitely want to. That was a learning experience for a lot of people at the table.
Yeah.
Like how vulnerable you are, how much or how little you can do. Because after I'd messed around in Sicily, I was like, I can't really do anything else.
Sure.
And what you can and can't do. Like even looking up north, the Gauls just like immediately died, and then
it was so interesting because he came against I was the Etruscan Sam Knight, so he came against my Etruscan forces. All I was trying to do was get up there, and I wasn't going to take a city from him, but he had a bunch of them. He didn't need them all.
No.
Right? There's no reason to be that greedy. So I went up there, and he decided to come down to me. We had equal. Actually, I had 1 more force than him. I had a good response card. Our first battle did not go well for him. He rolled very poorly. I think he lost 3 or 4 guys. I think he lost everything because his first leader was put into the...
Yeah.
So then I kind of had free reign up there, and then he brought another army down. And I had another great card that like eliminated his leader from the battle and caused him to lose 3 or 4 more guys. It just didn't go well for him. And then he was kind of out of it. He had nothing up there.
Yeah, it's, again, a very vicious game.
Yes.
Like, when you lose a bunch of combat units, it is very hard to replace those. You'll get some at the beginning of the next turn.
You might be able to buy 1 during a turn. But that's maybe 1. That's a whole card.
And it's a 3-value card.
Yep.
Frankly, you can't afford to do that.
I did that one time because I needed the extra unit. But
yeah, extremely punishing game.
But it's classic point to point.
Yeah.
It's classic card driven. It really fits in that mold of the 90s games like that.
When did that come out originally?
I want to say it was '02 or
Yeah.
so late 90s, early 2000s. Like
The rule book looks like that.
Yeah, but
And
Wilderness War, that game, they're all kind of in the same mold.
Yeah, this one's a bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Every faction, Asymmetric, has their own little bits and pieces that
And
they have
very
to deal
unique
with.
abilities.
Unique decks.
Yep.
That's always cool. It was fascinating, but I think everyone's like, okay, let's do that again.
Well, I think we played 2 full turns, and it took us about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, there was a runaway because we allowed the runaway,
Yes.
and then you assisted the runaway.
Yeah, well, the game had been
was over.
skewed to a point where it was like, all right, let's
Let's end it.
let's reset this.
So we called it, and we're going to play it hopefully again maybe next year.
Yeah,
Now that
was-
we've tasted it.
That was very enjoyable.
But I really liked it. I
Yeah.
did too. Really enjoyed it.
So yeah, and then Friday night or Friday evening, we played Quartermaster General 1914.
Yeah.
That was the first time. So I played like a demo of that. So I played, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, 6 turns of that.
Is that a newer one?
I don't know. I think
Okay.
that might be the newest of them.
So a couple years old maybe?
But yeah, I played that at UK Games Expo last year, and I was like, ooh, this is really neat. Mm-hmm. And we had an opportunity to play it here, played it 5-player. Wonderful game. Very, very abstract, very different playing game to the kind of stuff we normally play.
Yeah.
But we played about 90 minutes.
Yeah, 90 minutes for a full game. The Central Powers ran away with it. Jordan and you were just scumbags and won it somehow.
I will say, most of that was from the Austro-Hungarian and the Ottoman player. It was extremely helpful. The Germans did a little bit and then kind of collapsed.
crushed.
It wasn't great.
It was interesting.
But
But
yeah.
yeah, it was a cool game. I enjoyed it. Would love to play it again now that we better understand it. I think France has got to take more of a central direct route, allowing Britain to kind of come in there as well. And we did not work together well. We didn't know how to work together well.
Yeah,
So that was part of it.
figuring that out over multiple plays and what kinds of cards you should be preparing.
Yeah.
Hey, am I in a defensive
mainly
mode?
defense.
Am I in an attack mode?
I had a counterattack. I wanted so badly to use it that no one ever attacked me again.
And it's funny, we didn't have a single counterattack in the whole game. I saw one in the demo that I played, and it was devastating.
Oh,
because
yeah.
no one's prepared for
No.
it. And I've seen it once, and it was cool, but yeah,
Yeah.
triggering those is challenging. You have to have a bunch of defense and then have one
Yeah.
and hope someone attacks you.
Very interesting game. Loved it.
Yeah.
90 minutes, and I would love to play it again.
Well, and you've got the World War II version.
Yep.
We also have the Cold War version as
Yeah, we
well.
need to
So
play that one.
at some point we'll get those played too. But yeah, really interesting, frankly, fairly light system.
Yeah.
But also lots to think about.
Yeah.
And make sure to do. So that's
Very slick, I think, is what I
good
would say
entry
about
point
it.
into wargaming.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you set up your Battlefront miniatures.
Yeah, you were playing Undaunted.
Normandy, and we were using the reinforcements module, so we were playing a 4-player game. So it was David Thompson, the designer, and I, and he did understand the game a lot better than most of us, which was nice, versus Jordan and Russ. We played one scenario, the Americans, we won, then we flipped it around where we were the Germans, they were the Americans, they won. But the cool thing, it was won in totally different ways.
Yeah.
And I liked it. That game's very fun and unique. It had tanks. I had Panzer IVs running around. We had Shermans running around. At one point, the bridge had, I think, 4 tanks and about 4 guys all stacked in there. And it was just point blank. But then the snipers were doing some work out in the distance. So it was a great time. I love that game. I'd really like to play the multiplayer more with more people.
Yeah, I think the tweet and the joke was there's no stacking limit in Undaunted.
Yeah. And there isn't.
So the pictures were kind of nuts, so it was great.
But that was Friday night,
Yes.
right? So then we did Saturday, and I think we both were exhausted.
The Saturday it was like, all right, we've been here a long time now.
Yeah.
We did 50 millimeter miniatures on this table, which big 4x6 map.
That was a blast.
We played using the battle group rules, which are from PSC Games, and we don't get opportunities to play those a lot.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun to kind of sit here and do that with Ken and Tim
4
Densham
hours.
showed up for a bit. Yeah.
It was fun.
And we had Germans defending and British attacking, chucking a bunch of dice, everything blowing up, everyone running away. It was awesome.
The only problem I had with the game was the Germans had built a defensive position right in the middle of a drainage ditch.
Yes.
And I
yes.
said, nope, none of those units can activate. It's a swamp. So there obviously was no civil engineers in that group. So,
Yeah.
but that was fun.
Fun game.
Lots of dice chucking. Really
and
bloody.
I just love the little hidden morale system in that. You dig from a bag and when guys break or when you take objectives and things happen. So you never quite know where your opponent's at, and then at some point their force is gonna break and they're just gonna lose.
And then you got to spot them. So
Yeah.
But good time. I love that game. It's fun.
Yeah, and then in the afternoon we had our afternoon session of another coin teach and play, which we mentioned. I ran Andy Nabis again, Cuba Libre again.
Had a great time.
Yes, always enjoy that. Always like teaching.
I beat up on the new guys and won as the DR.
Yeah, that's corny,
Kinda
but
cheap. Yeah, it was fun.
sometimes
Had a good
it
time.
happens.
It happens.
I got beat up on as the government in Andy
there
Nabis,
you
so
go.
that was something.
Yeah.
What did we do Saturday night?
Well, you cleaned up your miniatures.
Yes, I spent a long time cleaning up and putting stuff away.
And then we played 8-player game of the thing.
Yes.
So not a war game at all in any
No.
way, shape, or form. We had a grand time.
Always like that. Just lots of yelling and screaming and stupid stuff happening.
Yep, the humans defeated the 3 dirty thing creatures. Started with Jordan, who gave up immediately and wanted to just kill us. But yeah, that was a great time. Bill Simone made one of the grandest mistakes, I think, in board gaming history.
I mean, this is on a level of what is fondly referred to as the Irish potato gambit.
Yes,
here
in
at
our
Players
lexicon,
Aid.
yes.
This will live on in human memory.
Accidental sabotage.
As long as it possibly can. He accidentally sabotaged by accident.
And he wasn't the thing.
Yeah.
And is a terrible liar about it too. Or he was trying to tell the truth and we thought he was a terrible
And
liar.
so
Hilarious.
it was, he made the mistake. And he was desperately trying to defend himself.
Yeah.
And then 2 turns later, it was like, oh, by the way, it was an accident. I
And
did
we're
it by
like,
accident.
okay,
I played the wrong card.
Sure. But he was telling the truth.
It was wonderful.
If I learned anything about Bill, is he cannot lie, so you got to believe.
He was the first one to get blood tested at the
Yeah,
end.
it was funny.
On the job there.
And you know the movie Wedding Crashers, right?
Yes.
So Will Ferrell's in that, and Vince Vaughn. And Vince Vaughn goes over to Will Ferrell's house, and anyway, they had a shotgun, and the mom started coming down the stairs, and he was like, I almost blew you away then. You don't even know. I'm like, Bill, we almost killed you then. You don't even know. So anyway, blast. Had a great time. I felt very bad, and I wanted to apologize to Jordan that we wimped out and said no to his very cool-looking sci-fi.
Chaos Order, I think it is.
I feel very badly about that. We went upstairs and literally crashed.
Yeah.
So
we'll get together and do that at some point, though.
We
that
have
looks
to.
Very cool. He had it set up. It was awesome.
So into a perfect week, we played about 10 games.
Yeah,
Had a blast.
I absolutely want to lie down, go to sleep for 3 days straight, and I'm absolutely exhausted. But everything we played was really enjoyable.
Yep.
And isn't that what a convention is all about?
Well, it's about making friends, meeting new people, playing games multiplayer that you can't play on your own multiplayer.
We played I played at least 3 new things.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome, and revisited some things I played a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that was.
And that's not even
great.
to mention, we had interviews with Blue Panther and talked about all of their new games coming up.
And they got a lot.
We met with Tim Densham from Catastrophe Games and talked about all his new games coming up. We interviewed Ken Reppel, the designer of 1812 from Compass, and his new games coming up. Later this morning, we're going to talk to David Thompson about his 40,000 games he has in design.
Yes.
And it's just, that's what these cons are for. It's just fun, a little bit of work for us because we get to talk to people, but I love coming. This year was a great time, and I look forward to it next year for sure.
So I appreciate everyone who played with us, everyone who supported us being here, and appreciate everyone who watched this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander for thePlayersAid.com.
And I'm Grant.